Success isn't something you pursue, it's something you attract. The person that you're becoming makes it natural for you to be engaging in the activities and decisions that get you to where you want to be, your definition of success.
Welcome to the Success Flow Podcast, where our mission is simple: to be better each day and relay our findings with other relentless humans defining success for themselves. If that sounds like you, let's begin.
Good morning, my friend. 7:15 in the morning, getting up early, jump on this pod, get an episode out for our amazing listeners. And I was out of town on vacation with the family last week. We'll talk about that. And you were out as well at an awesome conference that you were telling me about. So I thought it'd be a good idea. Let's just jump on and have open conversation, kind of talk about what you're up to, what you learned, and how things are going. What's up, brother?
Absolutely. Yeah, I am, excuse me, just a little bit run down. So disclaimer there, but it's all good stuff. Was on the road earlier this week for the Sales Success Summit in Austin, Texas. It's an event run by Scott Ingram, who is just a rock star and built this on the side for professional B2B sellers, mostly, that are to speak at his event or be on his podcast. You have to be either the number one producer at your organization, or if it's a larger organization, in the top 1%.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and it's not out of ego or anything like that. The premise is there are a lot of sales conferences where you go and the person may have sold 5-7 years ago, wrote a book, and are now just kind of speaking about sales 7 years ago. These are people that are in the trenches right now, that are working through the challenges of the given market and finding ways to succeed. So just an unbelievable way to spend some time out of your current organization, get around like-minded people and get better. So just an awesome event. You were in Puerto Vallarta, right? A little different type of trip?
Yeah, different type of trip. But before we get into that, I mean, I think it's pretty cool, man. Like, this was not a work-related conference that you went to. This was just something that you been a part of a community and just sort of like, hey, I'm going to go spend some money and invest in myself and go to a conference to, better my craft. And I think that's pretty impactful. Not a lot of people do that. And that's like the true entrepreneur experience or mindset that we talk about a lot. And I think it's awesome. Obviously sales, whether you're in enterprise sales or retail sales or hospitality or whatever, it doesn't matter what you're in your career or whatever it is you're doing. You are your own person. You are your own body. You are not selling yourself in a negative way, but you're selling your personality, you're selling your relationships, you're selling who you are. So that way, whatever it is that you end up doing, and as you pivot and navigate this crazy thing we called life, you develop those relationships because you have that empathy and those skills to not convince or manipulate, but just be real and in a sales mode of, why would someone want to work with me? And I think that's really commendable of you to take that. You've done that a few years though. You said you've been doing this for about 5 years, skipped the last couple. But this one was, you said it was one of the best conferences you ever been to.
Yeah, we all talk about investing, right? And to me, it's just so straightforward because folks will look at, because this was a, four-figure investment, pretty much almost multiple four-figure investment. And my whole thing is it's a no-brainer. I got to room, we shared an Airbnb with two gentlemen that have been through the ringer. I mean, the knowledge that we just got sitting in the living room is unbelievable. And you can't create those times. And I always say, sure, we can invest in stocks, we can invest in index funds, but how about, I love Alex Hormozzi's, it's the S&Me 500. That's your number one investment. It is yourself, because that knowledge that I got this weekend is only going to compound, and I just don't think you could put a price tag on it. So it's how I want to be spending my time intentionally. It's really about mastery of craft and sales, not just a job where you're trying to close X amount of deals per year. So
it goes back to, as you said, investing in yourself and focusing on the things that you can do to make yourself better in order to have a positive impact on others, whether it's your family or friends or your team or whoever around you. And I think that's just a good reminder to go outside of your comfort zone, find the things and take action on, spend a couple of bucks to invest in yourself. You deserve it. Right. And I think that's good. At the S&P 500 at Hermosi, dude, he comes up with some of these lines that are like, where do you come up with these? And they're great. It's just good little nuggets.
So get out there and find something to invest in yourself, and it's the mastermind effect too, right? It's people. Yeah. You're not alone on whatever. There are people trying to achieve the same things you are, and the more you're in a think tank with them, what we talk about Junto almost every episode. We came back and had that this week, which was extremely impactful.
That was a great meeting yesterday. Yeah,
unbelievable meeting. And again, it shifts your perspective on life. Everyone has a different definition of success. We're all living in a different projection of what this world is, what we want to create, how we want to have an impact. And the more people that you're around having conversations about it, the more you're going to get crystal on what those actions and execution items are that you're trying to achieve on. So I think we can't preach on it enough.
No, I agree. The roundtable you had in the Airbnb with those guys, you have a nugget or something that you can share what you learned from picking their brain?
Oh, we talked about, there are multiple sessions too, but one of the thing is I think we've mentioned it on the podcast before, but the Dunning-Krueger effect is a framework that we talk about. It's 3 phases, and we're all kind of climbing Mount Stupid in the first phase. We're ignorant. We don't know what we're doing. But as we're climbing this mountain and we think we start figuring things out, oh, I know flow state. I know sales. I'm like, you get a false sense of confidence, right? Like, oh, I'm an expert. And then all of a sudden you realize you are not an expert. You just have a little bit of knowledge. And actually your gap on what you don't know about these topics that interest you, your ignorance is actually made evident quite quickly. And you come down into the valley of despair. Yeah. And this is what I think is so critical right now, because most people don't get out of the valley of despair. They just they stay down and they survive there. So what happens there in the valley of despair is you realize there's a lot more to learn. It's a lot more work than is necessary. And then you begin to ascend the slope of enlightenment. And so that is a more gradual increase. But once you start making improvements and consciously reiterating, that is when the journey to mastery starts. And that can be exponential at the end, but is a much different climb. And we were just talking about how many sellers right now may have been at that climbing Mount Stupid and thought they had things figured out in a booming economy. And now this valley of despair is really when the tide goes out, you can see who's naked.
Yeah.
And if you don't swim like crazy and really begin putting the effort in and mastering the craft, you may never climb that slope of enlightenment. It was so awesome. We're having similar conversations in Workiva, but it just hit really home, and that concept, we just had an awesome round table about it.
Dude, that hit home so hard for me, like the way you put that together, because it reminds me of the Master Tax days and how that was a product that could sell itself, dude. Like it was your job to screw it up. Like you just had to be able to be relatable and have conversation and know the product to sell it. But that thing, you hold your net up, you get an opportunity, and you're pretty much swinging for the fences and hitting homers. And then when we launched Journey payroll here locally in Phoenix, it was like we had no clients, and now we got to go sell a different product, a service to small business instead of a software that was an absolute need for so many payroll providers. And I'm thinking, like, coming out, like, oh, we'll be able to sell no problem. Like I've been rocking and rolling ADP, President's Club, sales, all this stuff. I know everything. Dude, we didn't sell our first 25 clients until 6 months later. Like, it was a wake up call of like, oh shit, like, yeah, we're good. We know what we're talking about, but this is a different crowd. Or maybe it's like you said, where the climate of the industry that you're in, you know, maybe it's, or the economy or something happens, whatever you're selling, it kind of drops out and people aren't buying the same product anymore, and it kind of goes in waves. But it's the same kind of like despair of like, but at the end of the day, did I give up? No, because you continue that passion, you continue that purpose of what it is you're trying to do, and you continue hammering in on your craft and learning the industry, learning the product, learning what it takes to get it done. And you climb out of that and head into prosperous endeavors. And so I think that hit home for me just from that story, telling it from master tax to starting journey, thinking I was like, oh, we'll be able to sell our pre-launch forecast. Like we'll have 100 clients in 6 months. We had 25. It's like, oh my, it's a lot harder than we thought.
Yeah, and look at you, but look at it now. Look at the operation you have now. Being able to still in the thick of it from a growth standpoint, but it's a totally different operation with how you position the business and the employees that you have in place.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of that, I think having the right team in place is huge, but also giving your team and yourself time away from the day-to-day, the work life, right? And so last week, as we alluded to earlier, my family and I got to spend some time in Puerto Vallarta for a week, and it was like the first week, like full week, that I was able to take off without checking my phone or laptop. It was the request of my wife and kids, like the only reason you have your phone out is to take a picture or like to look something up or whatever, but like if you can help it, don't work. Like we want you for 5 days. And I'm like, God, man, like we're going over 6 years and I haven't been able to give that to them. Yeah, I've gone on trips and done things, but I've been on the phone or the laptop and whatever. So I was able to accomplish that. And I think it's because of my amazing team and allowing the mindset of like, hey, you guys can go take time off too. Figure out whatever your reset and recharge and refresh is to be able to manage workload and all that kind of stuff. And so that's been that's an amazing feeling, here 6 years later to be able to take that time. And it was an incredible mindset refresh and recharge for us. Although we did survive a hurricane out there. It's like,
talk us through that. You had me a little concerned via text message, and the pictures were kind of wild.
I know, you were like, you have me a little concerned there, buddy. And I was like, dude, I think we're all right. They haven't they would have evacuated us if they were concerned. And sure enough, 4 hours later, they evacuated us. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's happening. But it was weird, dude. Like, so tropical storm Hurricane Lydia, and she was, way out in the Pacific. And this thing kept growing and growing and growing. And we're watching on the radar. And it was like throughout the week, like we were getting little notices from the hotel. The hotel did a great job of keeping us informed. And it's like, okay, now it's upgraded from tropical storm to hurricane category 2. Next day, okay, now it's a category 3. We're still monitoring. We're like, okay, I think like the highest is like category 5, right? So like we're getting closer. And then the day on Tuesday, it was a category 4. And we're like, dude, this thing is like not, and we're looking on the radar and the middle of this hurricane is going straight to Puerto Vallarta, like a direct hit. And it's weird because if you ever look at Puerto Vallarta on a map, it's not right on the coastline of the Pacific Ocean. It's actually like in a cove, like in a bay. So hurricanes don't come directly in there. They usually make landfall along. And this thing is going straight into the center of that bay and going to hit us direct on. And we were like, holy shit, like, what are we going to do? They're saying 140 mile an hour plus winds, flooding, property damage, all sorts of stuff. And all they told us was like, hunker down in your rooms, everything's, okay. And I was texting you back and forth and I was kind of like, yeah, I mean, everything's going to be okay. I'd never been involved in a hurricane, but I was looking outside. There's no wind. There's big waves. They closed the pools and the beach and all that stuff. And we're kind of watching. It was a little eerie, calm before the storm type stuff. And then we got the call at 4:30 p.m. saying, 1 towel, 1 pillow, 1 blanket. We're taking you to the back parking garage. And it was like disaster zone, dude. Like they had the entire resort hunkered down in this parking garage. They had hurricane type barriers set up for the, where the openings are at the top floor. And it was whipping around out there pretty good. We were evacuated for about 5 hours and got back into the room about 10 o'clock that night.
All safe and sound. But there's nothing like a little adventure. The kids will never forget that one.
Dude, no joke. They were troopers, man. Like they were bored, but we hit our Yahtzee annual quota of Yahtzee that day. We had hunkered down. So, but they were bored and it got kind of tiring. And like I said, the resort did a great job of like, they brought in some pizzas and had water and like there was probably 3,000-4,000 of us sitting in this top floor, and it was like in a chair. Or some people had the lawn chair, like the pool lawn chairs or whatever, but that was it. Like we were just kind of sitting up and just waiting to see what would happen. And you could hear it outside, and it was kind of a wild experience. And I remember telling my kids, I go, now when you go home, tell all your friends that you survived a hurricane, and they'll think you're a beast. You're a superhero.
Those stories are going to be told for a while.
Yeah, adventure for sure.
I thought it was interesting that out of the, I think there were 10 presenters. out of that, one quote that is so appropriate for this podcast came up multiple times, and I've heard it many times. Not sure if we mentioned it before, but it's a Jim Rohn quote. And one of the speakers got a little bit, "Oh, you stole my video clip," and it's, success isn't something you pursue, it's something you attract. And this is back to actions and striving and what do I need to do and react to achieve XYZ is not really, that is not the embodiment. It's the person that you're becoming makes it natural for you to be engaging in the activities and decisions that get you to where you want to be, your definition of success. So Jim Rohn's like the godfather of self-help, especially for salespeople. He was Tony Robbins' major influence, and I just thought it was funny that quote came up multiple times, and they were almost the speakers were almost fighting over who used it first.
Oh, that's funny. That's a great quote. Actually, it reminds me. So last week when we were in Mexico, we met this couple. They were on their honeymoon, and kind of reminded me of my wife and I. They're like a decade younger than us. We're coming up on our 13 years, and kind of reminded of us, like excited about their honeymoon, all this stuff. And not saying success we were attracted to each other because of success, but just the fact that like we developed a relationship that towards the end of our week with that couple. And it was funny. Jack and I were just throwing the football in the pool, and this guy named Eric comes up, and he's like, "Dude, I was so hesitant to come up, but I wanted to play. You look like a cool dude, and a good family and whatever. And where it's our honeymoon." And he was just like a really eager, happy guy. Like he was attracted to me, and I was attracted to him. Like let's hang out, right? And so we hung out by the pool all day with him and his new wife, and Kim really clicked with her, and we ended up going to dinner together later that night. We got a reservation and we invited them. And so us 6 had dinner. It was like a 3-hour dinner.
Oh, wow.
And it was awesome just to like have a complete random stranger, just like you're just doing your thing, but you're doing it at a great level. Like, I don't know. I was being a good dad and throwing the football with my son, and I've been working out throughout the week. Like I'm healthy and I feel good. And, here he is, same thing. And he's, it just clicked. Right. So we're at this dinner. And I learned so much from this dude. So he's like a decade younger than me. He's in sales, but he's got a wild story. He's currently active right now. He has non-Hodgkin's lymphoma cancer. Oh, wow. And the doctors said, "Hey, go have some fun. Go on your honeymoon. We're not going to stop you from that." But it came back, like it's active. It's not dormant. He's beat this thing. This is the 3rd time now. He's beat this thing twice already. And his outlook on life was like, it almost brought us to tears a little bit of like, geez, you're an amazing human being. And
wow. His
mindset was like, I beat it once, I'll beat it again. I beat it twice, I'll beat it again. I have it right now, I'll beat it again. And I'm just resilient. And I look at, like, I just got married. We want to have children. We want to do it's just an insane outlook of like, someone else in that situation could totally be in those depths of despair and thinking life is over. And here is this guy who's out there living his life and having a fantastic time on vacation, his honeymoon. And he is currently battling cancer. And anyway, we've connected. We've texted back and forth. He's in town in Phoenix next weekend. We're going to try and connect and do a happy hour, and he lives in San Diego. And so nice. It's really cool how some of that stuff works out. That's
awesome. That's the energy you're putting out there, right? Your vibe attracts your tribe, and people just find a way to find each other. That's that is one of the major beauties of this world.
No, I was going to say, so you were at your conference, I was out of town. We both are big advocates for having a strong routine, at least morning routine. How'd you do on, when you got a lot going on, it's hard when you're out of the day, your daily, just waking up at home.
It is, and I was really kicking that around. Like I used to be, I thought that it was pretty natural and I had everything dialed in. But with the just where we were staying, the amount of Ubers, I think that's why I'm so run down right now. The sleep got off, even though I wasn't partaking in any of the libations, and I thought I was like getting back relatively early. The time zone had me off, and we were getting up early to get some work out of the way. I kind of fell off, that's for sure. And then we got back and the calendar was packed as soon as getting back in town. So it's going to need to be a weekend of recovery, which is just fine.
Yeah.
But it was eye-opening. It was like, you think you have this stuff ironed out and you're doing all the right things. You're eating well, but you got to be resilient. The little things in your routine can't throw off the whole train. So it's very eye opening, very clear that I'm not perfect and have this thing worked out, but we're here and we'll figure it out, make the adjustments for next time. I think you did a little better than me though on your vacation in Tequila Land.
I did. It was Tequila Land, and that's my favorite. That's my go-to, tequila soda. But I hit the gym 4 times in that week, and but that was it. It wasn't like as rigid as I normally am. So I didn't do as much meditation. I didn't do as much breath work. I didn't do the 5:30 a.m. wake up calls, and it was a little bit more leisure. But I made a commitment to be present with my family. I made a commitment to be present, have that 1 hour, at least a handful of times throughout the week to get a workout in. That's become my identity. And so I think taking a week off would have been challenging to come back to that. But I think that's important to remember is like, don't give yourself grace, right? Like you just come back and, start back to where you were and continue moving forward to be as strong as you can. But if you miss a few days or you miss a week because you're doing something else, like investing in yourself, from a career standpoint or investing in your family with it from a time standpoint on vacation, like that stuff's okay because you're taking those opportunities and you're on those trips and at those conferences because of the actions and the things that you did leading up to that. And so if things get a little wonky while you're on those, currently in those activities, coming back stronger is all that matters. What are you going to do tomorrow, right? And Did I tell you I signed up for another half marathon?
Nope.
Dude, I haven't ran one. Retirement? Yeah, I haven't ran one in 7 years. And, a lot of the health stuff that I went through a couple years ago with my respiratory stuff. So I couldn't really do much in the last few years. But I've had the itch for like a month and I never told anybody. It just was like, I don't know why the thought popped up to get back to running again. Probably because of the strength training and the habits and the things that I've been doing and just wanting to be the best version of myself. And so I'm like, can I do it? Like by the time I do it, it'll be January, it'll be right before my 38th birthday. And I always wanted to PR the Arizona Rock and Roll half under 2 hours. And I've never gotten there. My best time is 2 hours, 8 minutes. And it's just always ate at me. And I was like, damn, all right, this is the time I'm going to do it. I came back from Mexico and I signed up this week and I just started back to running this week. And it feels good, man. Like, I've been working out so much. My legs are strong. Like, I'm like, damn, I'm pumping out a couple of miles pretty nicely. I was, most I ever ran was like a mile in the last few years. So I was, I signed up.
Awesome.
I'm back on the saddle, half marathon training.
I love it, dude. I love it. I wanted to bring up one of the speaker's stories because we talk about the valley of despair can come from, what we're intentionally doing, what we want and the situations we're putting ourselves in. But one speaker, Brian Hicks was his name. His story was incredible. He was selling commission only and having
tough,
amazing career. Tough, but it was nothing. He loved it. He said he loved everything about it. It was, eat what you kill. And it was a solution that worked. But he found himself, he was visiting a friend and they had a late night party and he was helping the friend clean up and it was like 2 a.m. and he heard the party was moving like out in kind of the outside area and he heard pop and he literally thought they were popping champagne.
Yeah.
And then he heard them right after one another, pop. And there was a shooter that had opened up on this crowd and literally just a mass amount of people. And he said it was just chaos, like cockroaches if you turn on a light. People were scrambling around. They wound up going into this restaurant, back into a kitchen. The windows of the kitchen were shattering out because of the bullets. People were laying on each other. His friend froze, and he actually had his friend just stood in one place as the shots were coming, and he grabbed him and pulled him in. And he found an exit. Everyone ran out. He slipped and fell. And at the moment, he said, if I get shot, I can't be shot in the back. I don't want my family to be found out that I got shot in the back. So he backed up thinking that the shooter was coming in and then got out the door and escaped. And they went back. He found his friend that had been shot, and life for him, everything was turned upside down after that. He stopped showing up to meetings at work. He didn't know up from down. He just checked out of life. And he had a sales leader that showed empathy and said, whatever you need to get out of this, we're here to assist you. Let's start with a month and see how it goes. He engaged in 2 types of therapy and released a lot of the emotional trauma that happened in that event. And it just came back to be an unbelievable top performer. Traveled, met his girlfriend. He went over to Ukraine for 8 weeks and just really bounced back. And again, back to this valley of despair, he didn't get stuck there. And it wasn't even him that really fully got himself out. It was a conscious leader that cared about him as a human being, not as a number. So that really hit home for me, and how we need to be looking out for those around us. You have no idea what anyone's going through. He didn't tell anybody about that shooting unless they knew from the news or something like that. Everyone's fighting their own battle, and keeping an eye and ear out to where we can lend those hands is critical.
Yeah, that's huge. That's an incredible story. What a great outlook. Glad he bounced back and was able to pull through. And, a lot of people can't. That's tough. It's like post, traumatic PTSD, right? And it's like, how do you get through that?
There's a lot of despair in this episode.
I know.
We got a bright note.
I know. We didn't think it was going to go that route, but
all right. There's quite a bit of despair in this episode, but we're going to wrap there. Get yourself around a group of like-minded people. Invest in yourself. And if you're in that valley of despair right now, keep climbing and ask for help. And you will continue on that path of success for yourself. That's the podcast. Like us, subscribe us, and let us know what you want to hear more about.